The Acolyte finale is finally here, so there will be some spoilers in this video. We have a lot to cover. So, my initial thoughts, it was a good episode. I was really nervous on how they were going to land this plane. I will give my grade at the end. So, let's just hop into the breakdown first. So, this episode actually picks right up where episode 6 left off, which is kind of what I wish would have happened, anyways, without episode 7. But picks up where 6 left off. Osha has the helmet on. She's breathing really deeply. Kamir has to kind of struggle to get it off of her. He's not happy that she's kind of going into this trance or whatever with the helmet. But either way, she has a vision of May taking out Soul without a weapon. And so he's like, oh, you're seeing the future. She thinks she can change the future. So they are going to go on a hunt to find May and Soul. May confronts him about everything that happened that we just saw in episode 7. Soul says his biggest regret in life is what happened that night on Brindok. May ends up actually stealing an escape ship, so not even an escape pod, an escape ship. We have a chase between Soul's ship and May and the escape ship, and it's actually a pretty cool scene as they're flying into Brindok. There's like a ring around the planet, so it looks cool, that scene does, but for whatever reason, Basil kind of goes rogue and he shuts off the power to the ship, and so Soul has some issues. May ends up crash landing. Soul ends up doing the same. But then we cut back to Coruscant. Vernestra is actually having a meeting with a senator. He knows something is up. There's some tension there. I kind of like him because he is giving her kind of the business for all of this nonsense that has been going on. He even gives a foreshadowing to the fall of the Jedi, which is pretty cool. We've had a couple of these in this season. Then we jump back to the unnamed planet, which is likely Baldimnik, and we see Kamir giving Osha one last chance to join him. She says no a couple times. They leave. And then, spoiler alert, we have just a random scene of Darth Plagueis, I'm pretty sure, looking out of this cave, watching them with creepy music and his long fingers like coming out around the side of a cave. Super cool to see Plagueis finally on screen. At least I'm pretty sure it was him. It's everything we've kind of seen out of his character in all Star Wars media and speculation and all that so far. So pretty sure we have Plagueis on this Baldimnik planet, kind of watching over Kamir, which does let us know that Plagueis is the master. Kamir is the apprentice. He wants an acolyte to take out the master. We whisk really quickly away from that big reveal, though, back to Vernestra and the Jedi, and she's getting like all the knights she can get to go to Brindok to take care of whatever issues she's going to find there with May, Soul, Osha, and Kamir. But she doesn't know he's there yet. We jump again to Brindok, so we have Soul and May, although May is chasing Soul. Soul is going back to the scene of everything 16 years ago. Soul actually goes back to the bridge where May and Osha fall from. That's where May pops out, but he doesn't know it. She's kind of chasing him. But then he ends up fighting Kamir, and that was a super cool fight. So we get lightsaber combat, which kind of following up on episode 5, it's pretty good combat. Like it's a lot better than what we've seen in all of the Disney Star Wars we've had the past decade. This was pretty good stuff again. And it actually mixes martial arts with the fighting, which I really enjoyed seeing because this season does a good job kind of mixing all of that up. But here it combines it all into one fight scene. And so I personally appreciated that scene. We then have a scene where Osha and May talk about what happened. So May tells Osha the truth about what Soul did. They fight, so they're doing their typical martial arts. But at the same time, we see them just doing the exact same moves to each other. So kind of playing on that idea that the two of them are actually one. We go back to the Kamir and Soul fight, and Soul actually beats him, but May saves Kamir at the end. She kind of has a Luke Skywalker Return of the Jedi moment, though. She has Soul's saber. She has a chance to take him out, but she throws it away because she wants him to own up to the Jedi for what he's done. He goes on this monologue, kind of owning up to everything, and Osha hears it. So she finally learns the truth, and she goes full dark side. She force chokes him. She bleeds a lightsaber. She ends up killing him by force choking him. It's kind of crazy. And so she really embraces the darkness, which we kind of thought she was going to happen. But this episode maybe subverted us away from that for maybe 20 minutes. but then kind of puts it right back in focus. It was super cool to see a lightsaber being bled in live action. So on the podcast that I'm on last week, we actually talked about like, hey, how cool would it be if that happened? And here it happened, and it was pretty cool to see on screen. We then see Vernestra and all the Jedi arriving, and we do get that confirmation that she does know who Chimera is. She says something along the lines of you or something like that. From there, we see May and Osha escaping. May shows Osha the way she survived falling. That's actually the way they escape out of the witch's compound. Then Vernestra shows up and sees Soul's body there. She kind of senses everything that happened 16 years ago on Brindok. She hears like a force essence, maybe. I think that's what it's called. And she gets kind of the whole scoop on everything that happened. And she learns all the bad things that group of 4 Jedi did that we were kind of let in on. We see May and Osha reconnect at the tree that we've seen them at in a couple of episodes, the real colorful tree out in the forest on Brindok. Chimera finds them there. And then Basil is also on the hunt for May and Osha. So now he is leading the Jedi to them. Pretty funny that he's still like kind of playing an important part in all of this, but he is leading the Jedi to the twins. So Chimera, May, and Osha actually have to kind of come up with a plan here. And what they decide on is that Chimera is going to wipe May's memory. Osha is going to join him. They're going to go their separate ways, and that's how they're going to escape. So that's exactly what happens. They leave May there. The Jedi find and arrest her. Chimera and Osha escape. She's now, I guess, his apprentice. Acolyte, I suppose would be the correct term. But we jump back to Coruscant, and May actually gets to have a conversation with Vernestra, who figures out that May doesn't remember anything. So she catches May up on everything that's happened. But she does also have this scene with all these senators, and she makes a cover-up, pinning it all on Soul to keep the lie going. I don't think she actually believes that's the case because she knows that Chimera is still out there. So this is definitely the same cover-up that she's kind of been spinning this whole time. Soul is the fall guy. He's dead, so he can't defend himself. We do see a scene of her having a funeral for him, and she just kind of pins it all on him and makes the Senate know that this is an isolated incident. We then see Vernestra telling May that she needs some help finding Chimera, who she says is a former pupil of hers. So we know that he is a fallen pupil. We knew that likely from all those whips on his back, or the scars on his back that look like it was from the lightsaber whip. Pretty much confirms that it is. So if this story continues, I think we're going to see the two of them looking for Chimera. We jump back to what I'm just going to keep calling Baldemnik, and we see Chimera and Osha there, and she's full-fledged apprentice, I guess. They have this moment staring off into the sun. But then we jump back to Coruscant for kind of a big reveal here at the end. Vernestra goes into Yoda's office, if you will. So she goes to Yoda and says that she has something to tell him. And that's how the season ends. So my thoughts on all of this, really leading up to that last scene. So first of all, I think the cover up was a good choice on, I guess, how to keep this away from the Jedi. So there had to be something that kept that line in episode 1 canon where they didn't know there was a Sith. So they did preserve that by Vernestra covering everything up, and I don't think she even thinks Chimera is a Sith, just a fallen Jedi at this point, which is not something that is completely unheard of. So they do keep the episode 1 canon intact. Soul being the fall guy does kind of stink, but at the same time, what Soul did in this story also kind of stinks, so whatever. I mean, he kind of had something like that coming to him, and they had to have some way to have a fall guy, and so he was a good candidate for it. As far as the big Plagueis reveal goes, I would love to have seen more of that. Obviously, it was like maybe 3 seconds on screen. I'll roll it again for you just so you can see it. It was still cool to see, even though it wasn't that long. It kind of, like this season, or this episode gives us a lot to look forward to if there is a second season. So we do get that knowledge that he is out there. I think they probably did bump the canon timeline up a little bit, maybe for his species and when all of this was happening. But as far as changing things from legends and canon and whatever it is that we know, that's pretty minor if you're pulling someone like Plagueis into it. And I mean, he was trying to live forever, so it's not crazy to think that he could live as long as they need him to. So I like that they're getting that ball rolling. towards the prequel trilogy. Osha being the bad guy, I do like that. You kind of want things not to be completely spelled out altogether. So at the beginning of this story, I doubt we thought it would be Osha who is the bad guy. We were kind of thinking May. Ends up being Osha. I'm cool with that. I did not think Kamir was going to make it out of this season, and he did. So going to be cool to see him maybe in future seasons as well. But for that last scene with Yoda, we all did kind of want to see Yoda in this show. Now, cool to see him, but if he knows what Vernestra is doing, are they setting up another maybe stumbling block for messing up the canon in episode 1 that they have successfully avoided thus far? Like they throw Ki-Adi-Mundi in there. They have a lot of maybe chances to blow this whole thing as far as canon goes, but they kind of walk the tightrope. But then you throw Yoda in here at the end. So if there is a season 2, I'm assuming it will pick up with what she is telling Yoda. We'll be interested to see. I mean, they walk the tightrope so far. Maybe they will continue to do that going forward. But if I'm grading this episode, I still don't know if it's the best episode of the season. I think I've still got to go with episode 5 for the best episode, which I'm pretty sure I gave an 8 out of 10. So I'll give this one a 7.5 out of 10. It was pretty good. I liked it. Big reveals, Plagueis, Yoda. They wrapped the story up kind of neatly. So pretty good episode in my opinion. Definitely salvaged things from episode 7. So let me know what you thought about this episode in the comment. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.